I'll tell you, you can do 3 to 5 deals this year for free if you listen to this advice right here. Direct mail and Bandit signs are dead. They've been dead forever. Everybody knows it, except for my guest on today's podcast. Check this out. Today's guest on the podcast is Jenna Hoover. Listen to this. She started investing in real estate in 2013. She owns 21 properties. She makes $13,000 in rental income from those 21 properties. She lives in Connellsville, Pennsylvania. If you've never heard of it, that's because nobody has. It's about an hour outside of Pittsburgh. It has 6,000 people in it. And so she is the definition of living in a small town, but also being a amazing real estate entrepreneur, real estate investor. She's done about 100 flips as well, and we're pulling her into wholesaling. We're bringing her to the dark side. I'm so excited for this podcast today. Jenna, how are you today?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being on here. So, a lot of people tell me that you can't be a real estate investor in a small town. There's just not enough opportunities. There's just not enough properties to go around. There's usually one big real estate investor in town, and that's it, and you can't do it. What do you say to those people?
I'd say they're crazy, and they must not have heard my story, because when I first got into real estate, I had a mentor, and he was from, I think, like a busy St. Louis kind of an area. And he's like, guys, you're going to have to make 20, 30 offers just to even hear maybe no a couple times. So I'm like, all right, what do I do? And he's like, go out there, make 10 offers and see what happens. And so I'm super coachable. So I'm like, I'm a piece of clay, mold me, shape me, tell me what I need to do. And I had about 6 properties that I was evaluating and looking at. I went out, I made 6 offers, and all 6 of them got accepted, like my first month in real estate. And I said to my mentors, I'm like, well, what do I do? I mean, I hadn't even got that far in my training or anything like that. I was just like brand new, and I had to figure out what I was going to do. And I ended up moving forward on 5 out of the 6 of them. So it was very 0 to 60 in the beginning of my real estate career. I don't recommend that you take on that many in the beginning, but that was the beginning. So there are tons of deals. The only thing is you may run into issues where maybe you don't have a lot of cash buyers, because I don't have a lot of investor competition, and especially not serious investors. Like I have a lot of like these guys that used to watch Carlton Sheets back in, whatever, decades and decades ago, and they have some rental properties and think they know everything about real estate. But other than that, I mean, there are tons of deals in this area.
Massive imperfect action. I love it. Listen, when you boil down this business, it comes down to having conversations and making offers. That's it. I mean, that is the foundation of everything that you do. Whether you want to flip properties, whether you want to buy rentals, whether you want to wholesale, whatever you want to do. You want to do creative finance, you want to do some nothing down type of deals. You still have to have quality conversations with property owners and make offers. I mean, that is what it is. And so you just went right out the gates in 2013, which was a much different market than it is now. I mean, much different market, much more of a buyer's market at that time. And you experienced that. A lot of people told you yes. How is it now? Are you still making a ton of offers? Is it still that strategy that you have like a minimum amount, a minimum standard every single week of offers that you make on properties, or are you being more selective and really more refined with your approach?
I think I'm way more refined these days. I cherry pick a lot of my different leads, a lot of my different deals that I have access to. I think that I did notice a huge trend after the COVID era. A lot of people, kind of folded up their arms and thought their houses were worth, 10 times what they really were. And so I did notice I was having an issue when it came to trying to find the leads. Like I used to have a binder that because I had so many leads that came in, and like a lot of times I didn't even want to answer the phone or even call people back because I can't buy them all. And I didn't really know a whole lot about wholesaling. Like I did minimal wholesaling in the beginning. I didn't drink a lot of that Kool-Aid until now. And I just look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I had that problem. Like I literally had like a binder, like those like little accordion binders that you would have that you'd put in all your files. And I would have like a stack for all these different cities. And I just was so overwhelmed with those leads. And so now it's a little different. Like I don't have that, that huge flow of those leads. I do more marketing. I have, it's a lot of referral based leads that I get. I do a lot of them. I get them, from skip tracing and cold calling them and doing direct mail and things like that. But a lot of times, knock on wood, whenever I do have a lead, I don't really have a lot of competition. It's usually they have researched me. There's not a lot of people that do what I do in the area. Like Bandit signs, for example, in the beginning, I put up 5 Bandit signs when I first got started. I had 16 voicemails the next day. So, I mean, it was like literally shooting fish in a barrel because they'd never seen or heard of an investor. Like they'd only seen it on TV. And so I
Right.
put up my signs and people were like, "Oh my gosh, do you need my social security number?" Like I mean, they didn't like say that, but they were willing to give me like any information, tell me everything about their houses. So I got really spoiled with the leads. So I do notice that it has transitioned. It's a little bit different. I don't have to really fight that hard to negotiate. It's what I'm going to offer, and that's going to be what it is. So it's a little different compared to
So
then,
you
but it's
so
so
it's
good.
fish in a barrel. But how do you make sure that it's profitable? I mean, is this why you've done so many flips, because you were your own cash buyer? Because when, as wholesalers, we're looking at the markets and we're going, okay, where are all the cash buyers buying, right? They're typically in areas where they can flip, they can put it on the market, and it'll sell really, really, really fast, which is typically in the bigger cities where there's more uh, there's more areas of economic development, right? Like there's jobs, there's more jobs, there's more opportunity, so people can qualify for loans. And I heard this interesting statistic that only 18% of the population can qualify for a a mortgage, which is really interesting. And then if you go, okay, well, if the only 18%, how many are located in the cities? I would assume it's like 80 or 90%. So how do you get these properties and you put them on the market? Does it just take longer for them to sell in smaller markets, or how does that work?
No, I mean, it would just take kind of the average price point, like the average time frame. The thing that I have to be really mindful of is what is my after repair value. It's kind of a downfall because if I were to look at somewhere else, like if I were to look in your market, I could probably sell a house 400, 500. I mean, that could be an average of what the houses are selling for. In my area, my niche buyer is usually around like 130 to 150. And so like that doesn't really leave a whole lot of room. Even if I get it for free, if I have to do a full gut job, a lot of times like I literally I had this guy recently, he came up, he called me, he was from I think Boston. He somehow found my information or I marketed to him or whatever the situation was. He contacted me. He had a fourplex in town. It was the first and only property I've ever not walked into. It was so bad. I walked in and these cockroaches ran across the floor, and I'm like, I screamed, I'm like, are those cockroaches? And so he like pulled me aside, and he's like, look, he's like, if you want this property, I'll literally sign it over to you. He was literally going to give it to me for free, and I declined it just because it just didn't make financial sense. And so
Right.
that's a downfall of my area is that I can get something literally for free and I'm going to put more into it than what I can sell it for. So you really have to know the different areas of your town. Whereas I've got houses for 15,000 and I've made 50 on it and I only sold it for like 85,000 because it didn't need a whole lot of work, but I got it cheap enough. So it all comes down to just knowing what are the average price that your buyers can afford, and then from there knowing exactly when it comes to rehabbing, knowing exactly what it's going to cost because I've gotten in over my head on some different projects. Like I've had issues, ran into unforeseen situations. So it's just kind of just that delicate balance of knowing and really I got into as many rehabs as I did because I absolutely love rehabbing and I was greedy and I didn't want to give them up, and I didn't have a lot of cash buyers, but I'm like, man, if I can make 50, somebody can make 50. I want to be the one that makes 50 on this one and that one and that one. So I just love them. I love the transformation.
How long did it take you to understand what the fixed up values are? And how long did it take you to really understand what your budget for repairs are?
Well, luckily for me, I have great software that I have access to, a software that we work together with Flip Finder. So that's going to be something that I, on every single deal I run it through the software. because I want to be able to do my repair numbers in the system. Like, granted, it's going to be a national average number, so my numbers may be a little higher, a little lower. Like, if I look at a roof, I pay a little more for a roof than that number, but I also pay less on my tile. I may pay more on my painting, but less on my kitchen. So the grand total number is usually very accurate, usually about like 5 or 10% difference, and I always add in a contingency. But I think it wasn't so much knowing the numbers, it's just knowing what's behind the walls. Because a lot of the houses in my area are older, they are historic, they are at least 100 years old. And my first house I did, it was a really easy cosmetic one. I got in and out of it in 5 weeks. I made $38,000 and it was glorious. The second house I did was a duplex from like 1902 that I made into a single family house. I opened up the walls and I had knob and tube wiring. I had old outdated plumbing, no insulation, real 2x4s. I like to call them true by fours because, you know, the old time 2x4s were legit 2 inches by 4 inches. Today they're not. So if I want to put in any additional walls or do anything, I have to get, you know, not only real, you know, the current studs, but then I need to get all these furring strips because they're not 2x4s. So none of my walls matched up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I had balloon framing that went from the bottom floor to the top floor. I had all these things that I just never ran into. So it wasn't so much not knowing my numbers, it's just not knowing what I could run into. So knowing that these houses are a certain era, I know that I'm going to run into this, you know, like I know how to plan way better now. And as far as knowing the after repair value, a lot of it as I was setting the standards. Like if I did like 3 houses on one street, you know, and when I do that, if I sell it for this price, then I know like the house I live in, I flipped this house. The house next door, I flipped that one. My brother lives there. So, I mean, like we actually, you know, bought houses that I renovated. So, and I did another one a block over. So I'm kind of creating the pricing for the market for the area, which is, you know, really beneficial.
Has there been any that you lost big on?
I don't necessarily think lost big. I think that it was the time frames took longer. Like when I first got started, I took on way too many, like too many at one time. I had some different private lenders that were requiring monthly interest payments at 12% interest. And that just slaps you in the face. Like there were some months I was paying like 20 grand just in interest payments on some of my properties. And that could be super overwhelming. So by the time that, you know, you have all these holding costs and then it's like, okay, now you run out of funds to fix a property. You got to wait for this one to sell. So then once that one sells, so it's just a lot of the holding cost game. I did have a house that it took me over a year to do it. It was a gigantic house. It was three living rooms, 41 windows, 6 bedrooms. it was the biggest house in our area. I made 6 figures on it, but it took me over a year to do it. So it wasn't so much that I didn't, you know, that I lost. It's just I lost a lot in holding costs, things like that.
Yeah, your average time. So the time that, and by the way, guys, I want to go down this path of really understanding how Jenna flips properties, because then I want to flip it to, now that she's wholesaling, how much easier and faster it is. And we'll see, you know what I mean? It's just a different strategy. And listen, if you want to flip properties, you got to really take notes here as Jenna's talking, because she's giving you 11 years of experience here in this, 30-minute podcast. So make sure that you're taking some notes here. But I really want to get into, some of the specifics of how she has structured these flips, just so that you have that path, but also give you the path of, hey, listen, if you find the deals and you find the Jennas in your area, you can just sell your contract to the Jennas in the area and make an assignment fee and start building up your bank account that way. So whatever, this is choose your own adventure. That's the most beautiful thing about real estate. Now, I'm always going to encourage you to start wholesaling first, because there's way lower risk when you are just finding the deals and selling the opportunities to somebody else. And it's a great way to not give everything back to the real estate industry. So, Jenna, how did you raise money for these projects?
Well,
are you just from, did your family invent Connellsville? I mean, did you guys, are you from some really wealthy family in Pennsylvania that just had all this money and they're like, yeah, Jenna, you could do whatever you want with it. Go try to make more money with this money.
Yeah, I wish. Like my mom was a nurse, my dad worked in the hospital as a respiratory therapist, so they were not by any means loaded. And when I got into real estate, they didn't encourage that. They didn't really support the real estate venture. So I kind of was like a one man band. So I had a self-directed IRA that I was able to use to purchase one property. Unfortunately, I didn't know
What
like
was the job? What industry were you in?
oh, my background was in the medical field. So I went to school for radiology
Hmm.
and I did medical sales for about 7 years. So I had a really small a retirement. It was a 401k that once I left there, I put it into like it was like a self-directed IRA. I didn't realize because it wasn't like a solo K or something like that. I didn't realize that I had 30 days. I think it was 30 days I had to pay it back. Nobody told me that part of it. So I just heard that you could use your own money. And so I like exhausted it. I paid it back. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, like I contacted one of my investor friends and I'm like, hey, do you have like $17,000 that I can borrow? Because I have to pay this back by tomorrow or I'm going to get all these fines or whatever was going to happen. He ended up letting me borrow it. I paid it back and everything was fine. But I used a self-directed IRA on that. I had private lenders. My daughter was actually one of my private lenders when I first got into this. At the time when I first got into real estate, she was 2. And so I was divorced from her dad. I was getting child support every month. And so I would take that and I'd put it into a little savings account for her. And so I said to her, I'm like, can mommy borrow your money and I'll pay you back at 10% interest, which I created a monster. She's 13 now, almost 14. And now every time, like if I'm like, hey, I want to go get my hair cut, do you have $20 I can borrow just so I don't have to go to the ATM? And she's like, yeah, 10% interest. So like I created a monster with her because now every time I ever want to borrow anything, it's always at interest. But so I mean, I borrowed from her. I had an investor friend that I had met. Actually, it was funny how I met him. I got the house that my brother bought from me. It was a foreclosure. I put a bid in. He must have put a bid in. I got my offer accepted. I won the house. He calls me randomly one day out of the blue, never even introduces himself. And he said, how much did you get that house for on such and such avenue? And I was like, hello, nice to meet you. My name is Jenna. And he's like, and I told him, how much I got it for. And he said, first thing he says is, you don't know the first thing about real estate. And I was like, what do you mean by that? Because it was listed at like 38,000. I got it for like 42. And he's like, you don't know the first thing about real estate because you never offer them more than what they're asking for. I said, with all due respect, I do believe I know something because I'm the one that got the offer accepted and you didn't. And he ended up becoming a private lender for one of the first houses that I ever bought. So he ended up, becoming an investor. He's a great friend to this day. He's close to his 80s, and he was like a grandpa to me when I first got into this. So he helped invest in some of my different deals. But just private lenders, I had a couple of them that were hard money lenders. I had one hard money lender. You'll probably fall over. I paid 15% interest, 10 points on some of my hard money deals in the beginning. 10 points, 15% interest.
10 point. They had to be really low priced properties.
I mean, not that super low. I mean, I'd bought it, and that was the one I'd bought with my self-directed IRA. But then I needed rehab funds, so it was maybe like 70 grand or something like that. It wasn't. I mean, it was kind of low, but I mean, the house ended up selling for 160, so it wasn't like, terrible. But I mean, a lot of people fall over when I had one private lender at 20% interest. It got the deal done though.
Yep.
So. I mean, it is what
Well,
it
for
is.
when I started out, Jenna, it was 18%, 18% and 2 points here in Phoenix. And now there's just been so much money put into our system that it's 0 points now, maybe $1,000 origination fee and 12 to 14%, which is great. And they'll lend up to 90 to 100% for us because we've got a great track record. But when you're getting started out, I mean, if the numbers make sense and it's not going to totally bury you, you make that deal. You make the deal with whoever can, give you the opportunity to close and to do the project and to get it out there and make a profit on it. If the numbers pencil out, the numbers pencil out. And obviously it did for you.
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So you were just, I mean, were you just getting loud about it? I mean, were you out there during the day running around selling, doing medical sales, having a 2, 3, 4-year old, that you're raising and, calling up people and telling everybody that you want to buy houses and raise money for these houses and fix up these houses? Like, how do you do all that?
Well, I didn't have my medical sales job at the time I started real estate. So it was super ironic. And I haven't really told this part of the whole story to certain people. So this is going to be like an exclusive. So I started in March of 2013. In January of 2013, I had just gotten let go from my job. So I basically was jobless. I didn't have a job. I was on unemployment. And I had about 3 months worth of money in my bank account, like in my savings to survive. And at the time, I had invested in a real estate education company that's no longer even in the market anymore. And I paid. I used some of my 0% credit cards, and I used some different funds, and I'd borrow some from my daughter to be able to buy it. And it was about $25,000 at the time. And so a lot of people can be like, oh my gosh. But I looked at it and I said I was worth it. Like I knew, like people spend how much for college, and like I spent how much to have my radiology license, and I do absolutely nothing with that. So I looked at it and I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I have to go all in. And it included 6 months of coaching. I looked at it and I said, 6 months, that's 24 weeks. Every week I sit here and I do absolutely nothing. I'm taking $1,000 essentially away from my daughter. Like 24 weeks, 25 grand. I have to get the ball rolling. And that's what I did. So I like literally went head first into this. I didn't have a plan B, like at all. And so, I mean, at that time I was pretty much full time at this. I mean, I had like, I was trying to create, like right before that, I was trying to do like a little side business, like with flower arrangements and stuff like that. But I'm like, no, I always wanted to do real estate. I just never knew anybody who did it or anybody that could help me figure out how to do it. And I'm like, with the right education, then I'm going to be able to do exactly what I need to be able to do. So I went headfirst into it. A lot of times she went with me. Like she would be in the back seat and she'd be like, Mommy, that house is ghetto. I'm like, you can't say that. Like she'd be like, their house smells really bad. I'm like, you can't say that. She would be, saying this kind of stuff when we'd go look at them. But she was my little partner in all of it. And I just did it.
So you started in March. How long did it take you to get your first deals?
Pretty much right away. Within a month or so, I started, and so I got my first one. I'm trying to think. I probably bought it around Mayish, and then I sold it. Rehabbed it, found a buyer, closed on it by maybe like the summertime. So within my first deal, I made 38,000, which covered everything that I had just invested in myself, in my business, and that's how I had to look at it. Like it covered it. So.
And then some. You got a return on that
some.
investment.
Yeah.
But how did you find that deal?
I put up Bandit signs, and the lady called me and she's like, I'm going to lose my house or my car, and I can't drive my house. So, she had to pick one, and she picked her car. And, it was it was a smoking deal. I don't even think I knew how good it was back then. It was move-in ready. The only thing it had was an outdated fuse box in the basement. And I told her, I'm like, look, you're gonna need a cash buyer, and I'm the only one that I know about. So she wanted 40. I offered her 20, and she took the offer, and I bought it, and the rest was history.
Awesome. So what did your Bandit sign say?
Jenna buys houses.
That's it, with your phone number.
And my phone number. And then like my website at the bottom. Like one of my mentors told me, he's like, all right, you're going to need to do Bandit signs. He said, luckily for you, you're a girl. So put your name on it, because women are going to be more comfortable calling you, and men are going to think, unfortunately, hey, it's just a woman. I'll just call her, no competition. And I dominated with that, like so much that people were taking that Jenna buys houses and ordering their Bandit signs that said that, but with their phone number, like all across the country. It was super weird. And so then I ended up trademarking the phrase, because I was having so many people copy me with my signage and stuff like that. It was super weird. So, yeah, but I mean, because I was all over social media in the beginning, like that was back before like TikTok and all and Instagram and stuff like that. So I was on, you know, like all over Facebook. I mean, within like no time at all, 6 months, I was getting TV show opportunities, offers all the time, like three, four different offers that I turned down even before I accepted the one for HGTV and DIY. But yeah, so I was just getting recognized really, really quickly because there's just not a lot of people that were doing what I was doing to the volume that I was doing it. Like I would have five, six houses simultaneously being rehabbed, you know, even more than that. I mean, I would just be house after house after house with different crews. So it was quick.
Do you think that helped you raise funds for those projects?
Oh yeah, like I would have
Getting
people.
loud on social media and people knowing what you're doing in that?
Oh, absolutely. Like I would have people that would just post, like I would have like recently I just had somebody just post on my Facebook, "Hey, do you need money for your deals?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and they're funding one of my rehabs right now. You know, so I mean, it was all word of mouth, and plus like your social media is like your online credibility packet. Like on my social media, I would have like a folder for every house that I was doing, and I would do like I would always post like the current pictures, before pictures, after pictures, side by side pictures. Like people love the transformation of it. And so they would, and that's how I got a lot of my leads. Like people would say, "Oh, I saw your signs." I'm like, "Well, that's amazing. I haven't put signs up in 4 years." But it's just because they had seen my signs and they see all my marketing and it's always in their face and they're always hearing about it. So I got a ton of deals just because of social media, a ton of lenders because of social media, and a lot of my buyers. Like I found my buyer for my first house in 7 hours off of Facebook. I mean, it was just that quick.
I'll tell you, you can do 3 to 5 deals this year for free if you listen to this advice right here. Every single day, post to your stories, whether you're on Facebook or Instagram. You should be on both. This is for the whole audience. Post to Instagram. It'll go to Facebook. Post in your stories a picture of yourself or a picture of whatever you think is interesting that day, and just say, "I buy houses," and put your phone number on it. Post
I'm gonna
one
do that.
picture on your story every single day, and you will find 3 to 5 deals that will pay you on average $10,000 to $15,000 a deal. I'm telling you, and not only that, but the amount of people that are going to come into your world. And I'll give you another tip. And I think I'm going to make a whole YouTube video about this, Jenna. But this is what I would do, and this is what I have done. I would go to all the real estate agent groups in my market. I would go to all the real estate investor groups in my market, and I would friend request everybody in there, because people are like, "Oh, I only have 100 friends. I only have 200 friends. I only have 500 friends. I don't want to do social media. It's a waste of time. All these things." Listen to me. Just go in there, friend all of these agents and all of these investors and all of these money lenders, and post every single day that you buy houses, and watch. Watch what happens. Watch how many people bring you opportunities. Watch how many people see if you need funding. Watch how many people reach out to you to offer title and escrow services, or being an attorney, or or contractors. All of those things. People will literally, like a magnet, be attracted to you. You could go in a weekend. You could probably do this in a couple hours and friend request 200, 300, 500 people. And what happens is, once you're friends with them, all of a sudden you're going to start getting requests from other people that are friends with them. And they're wanting to know, wait, who is this person? Now you max out the 5,000 people that you can have on Facebook, and you're posting every single day that you buy houses with your phone number. And I am telling you, you are going to literally stumble into some of the best deals ever. And by the way, once you start rolling and you start walking through properties, post the video of that. You start running your numbers, post your story of that. You put out Bandit signs in the middle of nowhere that everybody's going to call, post a picture of that. Post a picture of you holding a sign. It doesn't matter. Just be creative with it and be loud. Do not be a secret investor. Go out there and be super loud and do all these things. And I'm telling you, so many opportunities and so many unbelievable relationships are going to walk through your door. They're going to slide into your DMs, as the kids say, and you're gonna have more opportunities than you know what to do with, and that's absolutely zero marketing cost, zero budget for that. It's just being brave, going out there and letting everybody know that you buy houses. That's it. What do you think, Jenna?
I think that I'm going to do that now. I mean, because I would always do that too. Like I posted so much in the beginning. Like I'd go look at a house and I'd take a picture of my work boots, sitting there, or, my big mag light flashlight and my clipboard or something like that. And I would always post that kind of stuff. And of course, that's when I had the bulk of my leads. And now I'm like lazy on social media. I don't post all of my real estate stuff that I'm doing. And I'm like, I need to do that more. So I'm just going to do it because you said so.
That's right. Watch what happens. It's going to be bananas.
All right.
You're going to have even more money lined up for your deals. That's awesome. So let's transition a little bit to my favorite topic, which is wholesaling real estate. All right. You and I and the great people at Real Flow and Flip Finder and everything, they have just been so awesome. Awesome with our tribe, awesome with this podcast, awesome with everything. I mean, the tools with Flip Finder are absolutely bananas, and that's really how you and I got introduced at a mastermind. And I've been, just pouring some honey into your ear and sprinkling some success stories that have been going on in the tribe that happen multiple times in our Facebook group every day. People posting about it all the time of the success that they're having. You're like, you know what? Maybe I should give this wholesaling thing a go, right?
Yep.
Did you wholesale that beautiful big historic house?
Not yet. Not yet. It's gonna. There's somebody that's currently living in it, so they want a longer
They want a
close
longer
date.
close of escrow. Have
Yeah.
you wholesaled anything?
Since that one, or since?
Yes. No, in
Oh,
the
yeah.
last 90 days.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and I'm going to say this too, because like I said, I'm a baby wholesaler. So whenever you first started talking to me more about wholesaling, because a lot of times people say, well, what's a realistic time frame? Like, I know on your trainings you tell people it could be, 90 days, like just there's different time frames. So don't look at it as like, okay, today I'm doing my marketing, I need to close a deal tomorrow. The way I looked at it is I started doing more of my marketing around like maybe a little bit before Thanksgiving time. So in like the November time frame. So I started doing way more marketing and started pushing. I had a deal that I was supposed to close by before Christmas, like my first one. It ended up falling through because it had terrible title issues. It was just a mess. I was able to then take another one and close it by January. It was like January 18th so I basically started my marketing in November. Within less than 60 days, I had a deal that I made almost $20,000 on. And then I had another one,
Let's break it down. Let's put you in the hot seat here, Jenna.
Okay.
What marketing did you what was your lead generation source? What
So I
marketing did
went
you do to get
in
that lead?
my Flip Finder. So what I do is like my favorite list that I target is I focus on people that are an out of state absentee owner. So somebody who owns a property that they don't personally live in, that they live out of state. And then I team it up with delinquent tax activity. If I can put in there vacant at the same time, like it's depending on your area. Like if you have too small of a list, then leave it the way it is. If you have a bigger list and you could throw in vacant, then better. So I had a vacant property that had been a little bit, delinquent on taxes, and the guy didn't live in this area. He was like from the Carolinas or something like that, and he reached out to me. He saw me then, and he looked me up on social media and saw I was legit. Like that's why it is so important. Like what you're saying about your credibility, it's like your online credibility packet. If you go on there and it's like pictures of your cat and what food you made last week, nobody's going to believe you. Nobody's going to know that you're legit. So, and I don't have a cat, so thank God I said that, because then I'll be like, oh man, I got to check what I have on my social media. But you want to make sure that you're credible on there. So he reached out, and I knew how much he owed on it because I could see it in the software. I offered him an amount, and he took it. And I had a contractor that I was working with that wanted to buy it, and he
What was
bought
the
it.
main motivation? What was the main motivation?
His son had been living in it, and then his son was just not paying anything, and the son actually had cats, and it was just a mess. But he didn't live there, and it was like nothing but a headache to him. I mean, and he was
So
like by far
vacant
the best
property,
seller. What is it?
just a vacant property, and it needed work.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it was so cosmetic. Like, I mean, the contractor that bought it, he's almost done with it in just a couple weeks. So he's almost ready. And he's going to be the one, knock on wood, that's going to be buying my big haunted-ish mansion. So, a 7 bedroom, 2 bath house from right after the Civil War ended. They built it in 1872. It's the most gorgeous house I've ever seen. I'm like nervous that I'm going to want it. I mean, it's just spectacular.
It is an
But that
awesome
one,
house. I love it.
knock on wood, is going to be about a $60,000 wholesale on that one.
So on the other one, you locked it up for how much, and how much did you sell it to your contractor for?
25, yeah. Yeah, 25 and then 45. So got it
And
for
you made how much?
25,000. It was, well, I paid his closing costs. It was like 18,200 and something dollars is what I ended up making. No. But by the time I found that one, I mean, it was literally like it was less than a month's work. Like literally. I mean, it was like a few weeks work. And I'm just like, man, this is so easy. I wish I'd been a wholesaler for way longer than that. So, yeah.
That's right. You heard it here, folks. She wishes she was a wholesaler. No, listen, you've done incredible things. I mean, you flipped over 100 properties. You're holding on to properties. It's so important, guys, that at some point you get off the treadmill and you cherry pick the deals that you're going to keep for long-term wealth. Flips and wholesale will get you rich. It'll get you rich. It'll help you pay off your consumer debt. It'll help you to achieve whatever you want from an income standpoint, from an active income standpoint. But at some point, you got to put that active income into investments for long-term wealth building. And that's exactly what Jen has done, and I love it. I love it, and having a mix now. Now you've got a couple different strategies. If you want to flip some properties, you've got that all streamlined. If you want to wholesale properties, you've got buyers that are looking for deals that you don't necessarily want to take on right now. So, I mean, you're playing both sides, and both are wildly profitable. I'll be honest, most flips, if you find them yourself and you flip them, you could probably make double what you would on a wholesale deal. But it takes, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times longer, and there's risk involved, and usually there's partners involved. So if you look at the net bottom line of what you're actually taking home every single time from a deal, I have always made more from wholesaling, just pure take home money from wholesaling than flips. But if you're creative and you love doing the flips and you love doing big projects and you have a pride of your neighborhood, and you want to drive by those properties and look at them and say, that property used to be so overgrown and fallen apart, and I changed it, and the whole street looks better, and I feel great about that, and I've left my mark in my community. Awesome. But just learn how to source deals, learn how to find deals. Did you say you found that from direct mail, or did you call him? The
Well,
$20,000 deal.
direct mail. Usually I send direct mail and I call, but he contacted me right away. So,
So Jenna is one of the absolute best at her direct mail process. She's got it all automated through flipfinder.ai. We've mentioned it a couple times. Definitely check it out, guys. You get a free trial with that. It is bananas. We use it every single day. The tools and the lists and just the fact that you can pull the AI list, which is a whole different thing we could talk about on a different podcast, but it is absolutely bananas. I would definitely encourage you to go check that out. But you just said it automated, right? And it just
oh
goes
yeah.
out. You click a button. You're not like writing stuff and sending it out and licking stamps. It's just all sent out, and then people call you up. And I'm telling you, direct mail in my major market didn't work well. Really sniper approach, really focus approach on really, really, really specific lists does. And I'll tell you, smaller markets, it is, like Jenna said, fish in a barrel. It really is. So don't sleep on that. And you don't have to break the budget to be able to put on a really good a mailing campaign. So awesome to have you on here, Jenna.
Thanks for having me.
So if people just want to say hello, they want to reach out, they want to say great job, they for some reason they live within some vicinity of your area and want to connect or lend money or whatever, how do people connect with you?
I'm on all social media at Jenna Buys Houses. So Jenna, Jenna, buys is plural, Buys. Houses is plural, Houses. So at Jenna
Awesome.
Buys Houses on all the different
Gi-
platforms.
Give advice to somebody, and this is their first week, their first month, their first year. They haven't done a deal. They're a little bit, they're a little bit scared. They're a little bit frightened. They're really not sure where to start. Give them some advice on the first thing that they should do to just start building the momentum.
Man, if I were, especially if I were to go back, I would say that the biggest thing is going to be consistency. And I don't want to sound like just a broken record with that. There's really nothing that's going to separate somebody from succeeding versus failing, other than obviously the person that fails is the person who quit. They just didn't try enough times. But it all comes down to doing the things that people don't want to do, but doing them on a consistent basis. Like there's times where real estate isn't that sexy. Like we talk about building your why and figuring out why you're doing this, but there's going to be days where you're going to be like, why did I do this? Like this sucks. This is not fun. It's scary. Like even getting into wholesaling, like when I had the deal that fell through and there were title issues and running into all these different unforeseens. And even the one that I did sell, I mean, there was all these, municipal issues that they had to have us do. And I mean, and I was like, man, this is like, how come I'm getting the suckiest ones right in the beginning? But really that's where everybody else would quit. And so when you're doing the things that are hard and you're doing them on a consistent basis, like those are the days where it separates you from all the average people. Like those are the days where you become an actual investor. And those are the days where you actually surprise yourself. Like there isn't a shortcut way. It's just all about going out there and believing in yourself. And I'm sure like if somebody is listening to this, if anybody's out there, they're getting into real estate, it's because you know that you have something different inside of you that other people maybe don't have. Like I always knew in the beginning I was different. Like I was always told I was weird growing up. Like I didn't have a lot of friends. I was always different. But I knew that I had something different inside of me and I didn't know what it was and I couldn't figure it out. But it was just my tenacity. It was my approach. It was the way that I just didn't take no for an answer. It was the way that I didn't have plan Bs. It was like I was like a golden retriever if you were to throw a ball. Like there was nothing else in my blinders other than that ball. And that's the way that you have to be with this. Like, you know that you're different. Like the people that are listening, you know that you're different. You know that you possess different qualities about you that are unlike probably a lot of the people that you have met. And that is what that spark that you have, that's what's going to carry you through this. And just always know that there's going to be sucky days. There will be. But the days that you push through, the days that you don't quit, you're going to surprise yourself and you're going to become that investor those days and you're going to blow past everybody else. But just doing the things on a consistent basis, whether you like it or not, because, you have to do the certain things. Like nothing's really sexy about direct mail, but you know what it is when you get a $18,000 check, like that can be really sexy.
I love it. Jenna, you're the absolute best. Thank you so much for being on here, guys. Definitely check out Jenna at Jenna Buys Houses. Jenna
Houses.
Buys Houses. And give her some kind words and put some kind words in the comments, and I'm sure we'll respond if you're watching this on the YouTube channel. And that is it for this podcast interview. Now, listen, guys. We have figured out over the last, it's really interesting that Jenna said that she started in 2013. That's when Wholesaling Inc. started working with the most incredible wholesalers from around the country. And what we've really discovered is there's no one size fits all when it comes to figuring out the right customized plan for your scenario, for your situation. Because the fact is, everybody has a different schedule, has a different budget, is working in different markets, and has different experience level. But there are paths for each and every single person. If you're interested in discovering what your path is, go to wholesalinginc.com, wholesalinginc.com. Check out the Apply for the Tribe. We'd love to talk to you, have a really, really, really deep conversation of what your goals are, and figure out the right plan for you. So go to wholesalinginc.com right now. Check us out, and that's it. As always, I am Brent Daniels, Mr. TTP, and I am encouraging you to go out there and talk to people. I love you guys. See you next time.